The night was quiet but not safe. The sky above was filled with two moons, their pale light falling on the long border wall. The wall was made of black stone and strange metal. It stretched so far that no eye could see its end. This wall was the line between two worlds. On one side lived humans. On the other side ruled the alien empire. At the center of the wall stood a guard tower. Tall and sharp against the moons, in that tower waited Commander Varen, an alien soldier feared by many. His skin was dark silver. His eyes burned like small flames. He carried a staff that hummed with deadly power. He was trained to stop anyone who dared to cross that night. Footsteps came near the wall. Soft and quick, Varen's sharp hearing caught them. His eyes narrowed. A figure appeared from the shadows. It was a young human woman, her clothes torn from travel, her face pale with fear and determination. She pressed her hand against the wall, trying to find a weak place. Varen stepped down from the tower, his heavy boots striking the stone. He blocked her path with one sweep of his staff. His voice was deep and cold. "No human may cross this line," he said, the sound echoing in the silent night. The woman froze, but she did not step back. She looked up at him, her eyes full of fire. "I must go across," she whispered. "I do not have a choice." Varen studied her closely. She was small compared to him, fragile, yet her voice did not shake. Many humans begged, many cried, but she stood with stubborn courage. "You do not understand," Varen said, his tone sharp. "This wall is not just stone. It is the command of my people. Crossing means death." The woman clenched her fists. She seemed ready to speak again, but then her lips pressed shut as if holding back a secret. Her silence made Varen uneasy. What was she hiding? Why would a lone human risk everything to cross? Behind them, the night stretched wide and dark. Strange cries echoed from the distance. Beasts of the outer lands howled at the moons. The woman glanced back quickly, her body tense. She looked like prey trapped between two dangers, the beasts behind her and the commander before her. Varen noticed the fear in her eyes. He had seen that look before. Soldiers in battle, refugees in fire, all running from something they could not defeat. Still, he lifted his staff and blocked her again. "Turn back," he ordered. "I will not warn you again." The woman took a step forward. Her voice grew stronger. "If I turn back, people will die." Her words struck him like a hidden blade. People will die, he thought. His mind stirred with questions. Was she lying, or was she carrying something more? For a moment his hand trembled, but then his training crushed the doubt. He pushed her back with the edge of his staff. "Not my concern," he said coldly. "The border is law." The woman stumbled but did not fall. She stood again, breathing hard, her eyes filled with anger now. "One day, you will regret this," she whispered, her voice low, her words sharp as knives. Varen's jaw tightened. Regret. It was a word he buried long ago, yet tonight it rose again like smoke in his chest. The silence between them grew heavy. Only the wind moved, carrying the sound of the beasts closer. The woman turned her head, listening, her face pale. But still she did not beg. Varen raised his staff high, making it clear that one more step would mean her death. She understood. She backed away slowly, her shadow slipping into the dark, her figure fading into the trees beyond. For a long moment, the commander stood alone at the border. The night pressing close, he should have felt proud of his duty, but instead he felt a strange weight inside. In the distance, a scream broke the night. Sharp and human. Varen froze. He knew the voice. He knew it was her. His hand gripped the staff tighter, but he did not move. He stared into the darkness where she had gone. The law said no mercy. The law said no crossing. And so he turned his back, climbing the tower once more. Yet even as he walked away, her words followed him like a shadow. "One day, you will regret this." And deep inside, he feared she might be right. Commander Varen stood inside the tall tower, his silver eyes looking across the endless border. The night was long, the wind was sharp, yet he felt no peace. His mind returned again and again to the human girl. Her fire, her words, her scream. He told himself she was gone, she had turned back. Perhaps taken another path, perhaps hunted by the creatures of the dark. Still his heart was restless. For many years he had stood on this wall, watching, stopping, fighting, but no one had ever looked at him the way she had. Not with fear, not with hate, but with a strange kind of defiance. Regret, the word echoed in his head. He had killed many humans before. He had crushed rebellions, ended families, burned villages. Yet tonight her whisper cut deeper than any blade. "One day you will regret this." The commander turned from the window, but sleep did not come. He sat at his desk, The old maps before him. The history of war drawn in lines of ink, red for the Empire, blue for humans. A war older than both moons, a war with no end. He stared at the maps until the shapes blurred. Then, faint and distant, came another cry, not a soldier's cry, not the roar of a beast, but the sound of a human voice breaking in pain. He rose from his chair, his chest heavy. His sharp hearing caught the noise again. It was her, the same girl, the same tone. His soldiers below laughed, they had heard it too. The little human thought she was strong, one said. Now the beast will tear her apart, another chuckled. Varen said nothing, but the sound of their cruel joy boiled inside him. He went back to the window. His eyes searched the dark. He saw movement among the twisted trees, shadows circling. The beasts were out. Their claws scraped stone. Their jaws snapped at the air. He knew their hunger well. They never stopped until they tasted flesh. And then he saw her again. The girl running, stumbling, holding something close to her chest. She was alone, she was fast, but the beasts were faster. Their glowing eyes closed in around her. Varen's grip tightened on his staff. His training screamed inside his mind. Do nothing, she is not your concern. Your only duty is the border. Yet his heart pounded louder than his orders. He stepped away, forcing himself back to the desk. But his thoughts betrayed him. What was she carrying? Why had she risked everything? He remembered her words. If I turn back, people will die. Could it be true? He sat in silence, but regret pressed harder. Memory rose like smoke. He saw again the faces of his first war. Villages burning, children crying, soldiers begging for mercy, and his own hand striking them down. He had always told himself it was for order, for duty. But tonight that lie felt thin. The tower grew colder, the night deeper, and still he did not sleep. Every sound outside pulled him back to the window. Sometimes a scream, sometimes a roar, sometimes only silence, silence worse than noise. At dawn, the light of two suns began to rise, painting the wall in fire. The beasts returned to their holes. The forest grew quiet, but no human appeared. Varen stood there unmoving, his chest heavy with a weight he could not name. The girl had vanished into the night, and with her, perhaps the chance to change something. Later that day, a messenger arrived at the wall, bringing orders from the Empire. Reports of human resistance were spreading. More attacks, more fire, more war. Varen listened but barely heard. His thoughts were still on her. As the messenger left, Varen whispered to himself, words no soldier should ever say. Why did I let her go? The sun climbed higher, but the shadow in his heart only grew. For the first time in many years, the commander of the wall felt doubt, felt guilt, felt regret, and in the distance, far beyond his sight, the human girl still lived, though wounded and weak. Her journey was not yet over, and soon, their paths would cross again, but this time, Varen's regret would not let him stand still. The forest was dark, the air heavy with smoke and dust. The young human girl moved slowly through the broken trees, her steps weak, her arm bleeding from sharp claws, yet she did not let go of the small metal case pressed tightly to her chest. Her name was Lyra, though the alien commander never asked. She had lived her whole life under the shadow of the alien empire. Her people were trapped in ruined cities, their supplies stolen, their families broken, yet still they fought, still they hoped. Lyra had been chosen for one task, one dangerous path across the border. Inside the case she carried was not gold, not weapons, but something more powerful. A vial of blue liquid glowing faintly in the dark. It was the cure to a sickness, spreading fast through her colony. A sickness that killed without mercy. Doctors in her city had worked in secret for years, creating this cure, but their labs were discovered. Soldiers came, fire followed, many died. Before the end, the doctors gave the cure to Lyra. They told her she must cross the alien wall. She must deliver it to the hidden human base beyond. Only there could it be reproduced to save thousands. Her heart burned with the weight of their voices. She promised them she would cross. She promised no matter the cost. But the wall was guarded by Commander Varen, and he had stopped her. His staff, his voice, his eyes of fire. He had turned her away, and now every step was harder, every breath sharper. Still she did not stop. She hid by day, moved by night, always listening for the beasts, always watching the sky for alien drones. Her body grew weaker, her hope smaller, yet she clung to the case. It was more than metal. It was the last chance of her people. Far above, in his tower, Varen too could not rest. He received intercepted human messages, fragments of words, broken signals, reports of sickness, of death, of hope carried by one runner. His sharp mind pieced the story together. His chest grew heavy as he realized the girl was that runner. The one he had turned away, he told himself it did not matter. The Empire's law was stronger than one human life, yet regret dug deeper. He remembered her words. If I turn back, people will die. Now he knew they were true. As the suns rose higher, Lyra's journey became harder. Her wound burned with fever. Her body trembled. She stumbled near a river, the case slipping from her hands. She fell to her knees, water splashing around her. For a moment she thought of giving up, of letting the river take her. But then she saw the faces in her memory. Children coughing, mothers crying, doctors dying with empty hands. No, she whispered, her voice weak but steady. She pulled the case close again, her arms shaking, her legs unsteady, yet she stood. Step by step she moved forward. The land beyond the border was cruel. Ruined towers leaned like broken teeth. Machines half buried in sand, the sky filled with ash. Yet somewhere beyond lay the base, her only hope. Back at the wall, Veyron's soldiers mocked the humans. They spoke of fire and victory. But their commander was silent, his thoughts far away. He looked again toward the forest, wondering if she still lived, wondering if it was too late. That night, under the pale moons, Lyra lit a small fire to warm herself. Her eyes closed for only a moment, and she dreamed. She dreamed of crossing the wall, of reaching the base, of giving the cure to her people. But when she woke, she was not alone. Glowing eyes surrounded her camp. The beasts had returned, their growls shaking the air. She stood with shaking hands, holding only a small knife, her strength almost gone. Still she raised the blade. Still she would not let go of the case. Her mission burned brighter than her fear, and far away in the high tower, Commander Veyron could not look away from the night. His heart restless, his mind burning, for he knew deep inside that the girl's mission was not just hers. It was now his too, though he had not yet chosen to admit it. The stars above were cold and distant. The wall silent and heavy, but destiny was moving, slowly pulling human and alien closer together, one with a cure, the other with regret, both about to face a choice that would change everything. The night was heavy, the forest filled with a silence that was never safe. Shadows stretched long under the two moons. Lyra sat close to her small fire, her body weak, her wound burning. Yet her eyes stayed sharp. She knew danger was near. The growl came first, low and deep. It shook the ground around her, then came another and another. Glowing yellow eyes appeared between the trees. The beasts had found her. They were hunters of the dark, tall and thin. Their skin like black stone, their claws long as blades, their jaws filled with teeth that dripped with poison. No human could face even one alone, and now there were many. Lyra clutched the metal case tighter, her knife small in her trembling hand. Her breath came fast. She knew she could not win, but she also knew she could not give up. If she died, the cure would be lost. Her people would be lost. The beasts circled her, slow and cruel, their growls like laughter. One lunged forward, snapping its teeth. She slashed with the knife, cutting across its face. It hissed and pulled back, but the others moved closer, their claws scraping against stone. She fought with all the strength left in her. Her blade flashed. Her screams filled the night. She cut, she kicked, she bled, but the circle grew tighter, her arms weaker, her eyes dimmer high above in the watchtower. Commander Veyron saw the fire in the distance, his alien eyes sharper than any soldier's. He saw the shadows moving, the girl fighting, the beasts closing in. His soldiers laughed as they watched too. "The human is finished," one said. "The beast will save us the trouble," another added. But Veyron did not laugh. He stood still, his staff in hand, his chest burning with conflict. The law said he must stay. The Empire said, let her die. Yet his heart said, move. His regret whispered louder with every scream she gave. Down below, the fight turned worse. One beast leaped onto her shoulder, claws tearing into her flesh. She cried out but drove the knife into its neck. It fell, but two more replaced it. Her strength was gone. Her legs buckled, her fire burned low. She fell to the ground, her hand still gripping the case, her eyes still fierce though her body trembled. The beasts circled for the last strike, their jaws wide, their hunger ready, and then the night exploded with light. A beam of energy cut through the forest, striking one beast and burning it to ash. The others hissed and pulled back, their glowing eyes flashing in fear. From the wall came the sound of heavy boots. Commander Veyron had left his post. He moved like a storm, his staff glowing with deadly power. Each swing cracked bone, each strike tore through claws. He fought with skill born of endless battles, his silver skin shining under the moons. The beasts roared, they leaped at him, but he met them without fear. His strikes fast, his movements sharp. One after another fell to the ground, until the last hissed and fled into the night. Vanishing back into the forest, silence returned, broken only by Lyra's weak breathing. She lay on the ground, blood staining her arm, still clutching the case. Still refusing to let go, Varen stood above her, his chest heaving, his staff humming. He looked down at the human girl he once turned away, now lying broken at his feet. He knelt beside her, his voice low. "Why do you fight so hard?" he asked, but she did not answer. Her eyes were half closed, her strength fading. He touched the case gently, feeling the faint warmth of the glowing vial inside. His suspicion turned to certainty. This was no simple burden. This was the reason for her courage. This was the reason for her words. Behind him, the wall loomed tall and silent. The law still unbroken, but his choice had already broken it. By stepping out, by saving her. He had crossed a line far greater than stone. He lifted her carefully, her body light in his arms, her breath shallow, her hand still clutching the case even in her sleep, as he carried her back toward the shadows. His soldiers watched in silence, their laughter gone, their eyes wide with fear and confusion. The commander had acted against the law, against the Empire. Varen knew there would be punishment. He knew there would be no turning back. But as he looked at the fragile human in his arms, he also knew regret would no longer hold him he had chosen. The night was not safe, the future uncertain, but a new path had begun, a path where alien and human stood together, even if the Empire itself rose against them. The forest was silent after the battle, the ground still marked with claw prints and blood. The air smelled of smoke and poison. Commander Varen stood with the human girl in his arms, his staff glowing faintly in the dark. His soldiers had watched from the wall. None dared to speak, but their silence was heavy. He had done the unthinkable, he had broken the rule. For many years, Varen had lived as a weapon of the Empire. His duty clear, his orders simple. No mercy, no weakness, no crossing. Yet tonight he had stepped beyond the border. He had fought to save a human. He had chosen his heart over his law. Lyra stirred weakly, her eyes half open, her voice soft. Why did you help me?" she asked, her hand still clutching the case. Her face pale with fever. Varen looked down at her. For a moment he had no answer. His voice finally came low and rough. "Because I could not watch you die." He carried her through the ruins of trees until he found a cave hidden in the rocks. Inside the cave, the air was cool and safe. He laid her down gently, placing the case beside her. She still held it even in her sleep, her fingers refusing to let go. He watched her closely, his sharp eyes seeing every wound, every breath, every tremble. She was weaker than any soldier he had ever known, yet stronger than most warriors. She carried not only her own life but the hope of her people. Outside, the soldiers whispered, their voices filled with fear. "The commander has betrayed the law," one said. "If the Empire learns of this, he will be executed," another muttered. But none dared to confront him. His presence still struck fear in the cave, Lyra dreamed. She dreamed of fire and loss, of her city falling, of the doctors pressing the cure into her hands. She dreamed of crossing the border only to be stopped. She dreamed of beasts tearing at her flesh, and then the silver warrior who saved her. She woke with a gasp, sweat on her brow. Varen was there, sitting near the fire he had built, his eyes watching her. His staff resting against the wall, she tried to sit up, but pain forced her back. He reached out, holding her shoulder firmly. "Rest," he said, his voice softer than before. She looked at him with tired eyes. "You stopped me before. You nearly doomed us all," she whispered, anger and pain mixing in her words. "Why save me now?" Varen's jaw tightened. He had no easy answer. Regret filled his chest like a stone. "I was a soldier," he said slowly. "I followed orders, but your words stayed in my mind. If I turn back, people will die, and now I know it was true." Lyra's lips trembled, her eyes wet. "Yes, it is true," she said, her voice low. "This cure can save thousands, but only if I reach the base. Only if I cross." The commander fell silent, his thoughts heavy. He knew what helping her meant. If he carried her across, if he protected her, he would become an enemy of his own kind. The Empire would hunt him, strip him of his honor, his rank, his life. Yet as he looked at her, so small, so broken, yet so fierce, he felt something stronger than fear, something that had been buried for years. The night passed slowly, the moons moving across the sky. Varen stayed awake, guarding the cave. Every sound in the forest drew his eyes. Every shadow tested his will. He was no longer guarding a wall. He was guarding one life, and that life mattered more than all the orders of his empire. At dawn, Lyra tried again to rise. This time he helped her. Steadying her with his strong arms, her steps were weak, her body shaking, but her grip on the case was firm. She looked at him, her eyes filled with determination. "I must go," she whispered. Varen nodded, his face calm but his heart storming. "Then I will go with you," he said, his voice carrying a weight he had never spoken before. Her eyes widened, surprise flashing across her face. "You would betray your empire?" she asked, her voice almost unbelieving. He met her gaze, his silver eyes steady. "I already have," he said. "When I saved you, there was no turning back. Now the only path left is forward." Lyra stared at him for a long moment, then gave a small nod. She did not trust him fully. Not yet, but she knew she could not reach the base alone. She needed him. Together they stepped out of the cave. The sun's rising above them, the world bright yet dangerous. Enemies waiting in every shadow. Varen walked beside her, his staff glowing. His eyes sharp, his choice made. The wall behind them stood tall and silent. But in Varen's heart it had already fallen. The morning sun rose slowly, casting long beams of light across the broken land. The air was cool. The ruins of old towers stood like bones from another age. Lyra walked with unsteady steps, the case clutched tightly in her hands. Beside her moved Commander Varen, tall, silent, his staff glowing faintly with power. Neither spoke at first, their silence heavy. One was human, one was alien, enemies by blood and history. Yet here they were, walking together, bound not by trust but by need. Lyra's body was weak, each step brought pain. But she pushed forward, her mission driving her like fire. She did not forget that this same alien had stopped her before, had nearly cost her people their only chance. Though he had saved her life, her heart still held doubt. Varen walked like a shadow, his eyes always scanning the trees. Every sound drew his attention. Every movement tested his sharp instincts. He had fought countless battles, but this journey felt different. This time he was not following orders. He was walking against them. Every step farther from his empire, every step deeper into betrayal. Finally, Lyra broke the silence, her voice soft but steady. "You were my enemy yesterday," she said. "Why should I believe you now?" Varen did not stop walking. His voice came low and heavy. "You should not," he said. "Trust is not given in a day, but without me, you will not survive this land." Her hand tightened on the case. Her eyes narrowed. "And without me, you will not understand why this cure matters," she replied, her tone sharp. For a moment they looked at each other, fire meeting steel, then both turned away. The silence returned, but it was no longer empty. It was filled with unspoken truth. They needed each other, whether they liked it or not. By midday, they reached the ruins of an ancient city. The ground cracked, the buildings half buried in dust. Machines long dead lay scattered like skeletons. Lyra's steps slowed, her body trembling. She stumbled against a wall. Varen caught her before she fell. His hands strong and steady. "Rest," he said. Guiding her into the shadow of a broken tower, he built a small fire, his sharp movements practiced. Though he had never cared for a human before, his actions showed skill. Lyra sat, her eyes watching him, her breath shallow. "Why do you help me so carefully?" she asked. Suspicion still in her voice, he paused, his silver eyes meeting hers. "Because I regret," he admitted, the word rough in his mouth. "I regret stopping you. I regret obeying blindly. I regret the blood on my hands." Her heart stirred at his words. She wanted to hate him, but she saw truth in his face, pain hidden beneath the armor. She said nothing, but she did not look away. That night, as the moons rose, danger found them again. Alien soldiers moved silently through the ruins, hunting both human rebels and traitors. Their armor gleamed under the pale light. Their weapons ready, Varen sensed them first. His hand tightening on his staff, he pulled Lyra close, whispering, "Stay silent," his voice sharp. His body tense, the soldiers moved like shadows, their voices harsh in the alien tongue. They searched the ruins carefully. If they found Lyra, she would be executed. If they found Varen with her, he would be declared traitor. Lyra's heart pounded. Her fingers gripped the case tighter. She wanted to run, but Varen's hand on her shoulder kept her still, his eyes burning, his body a shield before her. The soldiers passed close, one stopped, his head turning, his eyes scanning the dark. Lyra held her breath, her whole body frozen. Then, with a sudden motion, Varen struck, his staff glowing with deadly power. One soldier fell before he could shout. The others turned in shock. The battle began. The ruins echoed with the clash of metal and energy. Varen fought like a storm, his movements sharp and fierce, but he was outnumbered. Lyra crouched behind the broken wall, her eyes wide, her fear heavy. Yet her hands refused to let go of the case. When one soldier aimed at her, she grabbed a piece of broken stone and threw it, striking his helmet. It gave Veyron the moment he needed to strike him down. For the first time, they fought as one. Their movements different, but their purpose the same. When the last soldier fell, silence returned. Veyron stood, his body tense, his breath deep. Lyra rose slowly, her eyes still wide with shock. She looked at him differently now, no longer only as the enemy who stopped her, but as the warrior who had saved her twice. He turned to her, his voice low. "Do you see now?" he said. "I am hunted as well. I have chosen your path. Whether you trust me or not, our lives are tied." She nodded slowly, her anger softening, her voice quiet. "Then we walked together." Alien, the fire in her eyes matched the resolve in his. Their alliance was not born from friendship. Not yet, but from survival, from duty, from regret and hope. And as the moons rose higher, both knew the Empire would come again, stronger, fiercer. But they also knew this: alone they would fall. Together they might endure. The ruins were silent after the battle. The smoke from the fallen soldiers drifted into the pale night. Lyra stood beside Commander Veyron, her hand still clutching the case. Her heart beating fast, both knew the Empire would not stop. The Empire never forgave betrayal. At dawn, the air shook with the sound of engines. Alien warships flew low, their shadows covering the broken city. Soldiers marched below, more than before, their voices sharp, their weapons ready. They came not only for the human girl, but for the commander who had broken the rule. Veyron stood tall, his staff glowing with fierce light, his silver skin shining under the twin suns. He knew this was the moment. There would be no turning back. The Empire had chosen to make him an enemy, and now he would show them his choice. Lyra looked at him, fear in her eyes. "There are too many," she whispered, her voice trembling. "We cannot fight them all." Veyron's jaw tightened, but his eyes stayed calm. "You do not have to," he said. "Your mission is to carry the cure, mine is to hold the line." She shook her head, pain and anger in her voice. "No, I will not leave you." He turned to her, his voice steady. "You must," he said. "If you fall, your people fall. If I fall alone. This is the path I choose." Her eyes filled with tears, her heart torn, but she saw the truth in his face. This was not just duty, it was redemption. The soldiers closed in, their boots striking the ground, their voices chanting the law of the Empire. "No mercy, no weakness, no crossing," they shouted. Veyron raised his staff high, his voice thundered back. "I cross." The battle began like a storm. Soldiers poured into the ruins. Energy blasts lit the sky. Dust and fire filled the air. Veyron fought at the front, his staff cutting through metal and armor. His movement strong and fierce, every strike carried years of regret. Every blow was a choice to stand against the Empire. Lyra ran through the ruins, her legs weak but her heart burning. She clutched the case tight, every step echoing with the voices of her people. Children, mothers, the sick, the dying. She could not stop, she could not fail. Behind her, the clash of war shook the ground. She looked back once, just once, and saw him standing tall against the army. One alien against many, a warrior turned traitor, a commander turned protector. The soldiers came at him from all sides, but he held the line. His silver skin burned, his blood marked the stones. Still he fought, still he stood. "Go," he shouted, his voice carrying across the ruins. "Do not look back." Tears blurred her eyes, but she obeyed. She turned and ran, every step heavier than the last. The Empire soldiers pressed harder, their numbers endless. Veyron's body weakened, yet his spirit burned brighter. He remembered every order he once obeyed, every human he once stopped, every regret he carried, and now he turned that pain into strength. He struck down another wave, his staff glowing with fire, his roar shaking the ruins, his defiance echoing into the sky. But even the strongest warrior cannot fight forever. At last his legs grew heavy, his arms slow. A blade cut across his side, another struck his chest. He fell to one knee, the soldiers closed in. Still he lifted his staff one last time, his eyes burning, his voice clear. "I regret nothing," he said, and with his final strike, light burst from the staff, blinding the soldiers, shaking the ground, a storm of power that carved a path for Lyra to escape. Far ahead, Lyra reached the hidden base. Her body broken, her breath weak, but she carried the case safely. The gates opened, humans rushed to her, their voices filled with hope. She placed the cure in their hands. Her mission complete, she collapsed to the ground, her eyes looking back at the ruins in the distance. Smoke rising, the sound of battle gone, her heart heavy with sorrow, but also filled with something new. Commander Varen was gone, but his choice remained. His sacrifice had given her people a future. His betrayal had become their salvation. The humans spoke of him in whispers, an alien who turned against his empire, an enemy who chose mercy, a warrior who broke the rule. And though Lyra's heart ached with loss, she carried his memory with her. Every step, every word, every choice, for he had once blocked her from crossing. But in the end, he crossed the line himself, and in doing so, he became more human than most humans she had ever known.